We're going to welcome back everybody to the final two speakers of today's program. Joining us now are two women who traveled all the way here from Buenos Aires to be here with us. It is Agustina and Catalina from Global Salmon Farming Resistance here for you now. Thanks.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having us here. As Ashley mentioned, I'm Catalina. This is Agustina. We are from the Global Salmon Farming Resistance, and we live in Argentina, in Buenos Aires. So we traveled yesterday for the event. Well, we are the Global Salmon Farming Resistance, which is not an international NGO, but rather an alliance of different NGOs and different activists, scientists, and individuals from all around the world. We are now more than 130 members from 23 different countries, and we all share one same vision, which is to take salmon farms out of the ocean. So next slide, Ashley, please. So when we started, the idea was really simple. We didn't want to start a new NGO from scratch, but rather connect the isolated fights that we could see all around the world and turn it into a global movement. Next slide, please, Ashley. Sorry about my voice. It's allergy season in Argentina. So we're going to talk, something that's important to clarify is that we're going to talk about the global situation, right? No, not specifically about Maine, probably, but about the whole situation. And something that we saw was that the story people were told was really clean, that salmon farms were actually in pristine waters, that salmon was farmed responsibly, and that it was a protein source, a sustainable protein source for the future. They even sold themselves as the Blue Revolution, to say that they were not as harmful as, for instance, meat or chicken farms, so that they could be the protein source of the future. So something that we also saw is that the industry has spent billions building this story. They have been working around this in 1960, 1970. Actually, for those who don't know, the real sushi didn't have salmon on it. But in the 1990s, the Norwegian government started a project called Project Japan to include salmon in the sushi and to spread the sushi worldwide. So now no one can imagine sushi without salmon. Next slide, Ashley, please. So this is what we've been told, but the reality is quite different. And what an open-net salmon farm actually does to the ocean is a lot of harm. We encounter untreated waste, antibiotics, and pesticides. Something that is really important to understand is that open nets are open. So water flows freely into the ocean. So everything that you throw into the pens to treat the salmon is going to flow directly into the whole ecosystem. So we've also have dead zones, which are areas deprived of oxygen where no marine life can survive. Sea lice infestations, for which they need the pesticides that then flow freely. Escapes and disease. Well, Jill already mentioned this a little bit. Escapes are really an issue for different reasons. In the global south, for instance, salmon is not endemic. It's an invasive species. So every time there's an escape, then you got a lot of invasive carnivorous fish in the ecosystem. But also because of interbreeding and the genetic introgression. I know there have been some questions about studies on this. We've got some, so we can actually maybe after the presentation send you all the links with the sources and the studies that we have.
Places around the world. Sorry, yeah. Just a comment. Studies from different places that also can be replicated here and shared.
Yeah, we've got some from the Scottish government, from Norway, from Iceland. And another real thing is that for people who want to consume sustainable fish, usually salmon is marketed as healthy and sustainable. It's usually certified, but these certifications don't actually mean anything. So that's why, Ashley, please, the next one. Here is a video. This was filmed by Inside Scottish Salmon Farms. It's Corin Smith. He's an activist in Scotland. This is from a Scottish farm. This is the dead zone that we've been talking about, this area where no marine life can thrive. And
that's beneath the pens due to all the pollution regarding feed, feces, and pesticides. That's what you get after a couple of years of salmon farm.
Yeah. So, and another thing is that the cost is global. This is a report that FAIR did, that there's a source, but we can share it afterwards as well, that states that 22% of the world's wild fish catch is processed into fish meal and fish oil to feed farm salmon. 38% of global fisheries are already overfished, and you need over 1 kilo of wild fish to produce 1 kilo of salmon. So it doesn't make any sense. And even if we know the industry has been working on reducing this, and some of them are even claiming that they already are under 1 kilo. But if you think about it, it's still a growing industry. The demand is growing. More and more, it's actually one of the fastest growing industries in the world. And the fish that is used to produce the fish meal and the fish oil usually comes from the global south, mostly West Africa and Peru. So even if they were able to reduce this ratio, it's still really unfair for a lot of communities because they produce salmon to sell in this part of the world, but they are taking wild fish out of different local communities. Next slide, please. And the next one, sorry. So this is not just an environmental issue, and this does not only affect the environment. Next slide, please. But it's usually the communities living nearest to salmon farms or the communities where this wild fish is taken from that absorb all the costs. You get contaminated waters, these collapsed fisheries. They're having a lot of cases, for instance, in Norway, where some of the pesticides used to treat salmon for sea lice, for instance, has a lot of impact and harms the shell of the lobsters, crustaceans. I mean, crabs, lobsters, king crab, for instance, in Argentina. So there have been documentations of lobster in Nova Scotia being affected by these pesticides. In Norway, the crabs, so it really affects local fisheries. It also means the loss of culture and livelihood, and something that we see most often than not, and this can be seen in, for instance, Chile, Scotland. There's no consultation nor consent from the communities where the salmon farms are installed. In Chile, for instance, there are a lot of native communities that are actually are not being consulted, and their native places and their natural places, which are even sometimes marine protected areas or reserves, because they are the patrimony of these people. But salmon farms are even though installed there. Next slide, please. So how do we start? Because we are in Argentina. We don't have salmon farms there, for you who didn't know about this. But we work at an NGO in Argentina that's called Por el Mar, which is for the sea, to protect the ocean. And something that changed us, and that's why we started this alliance, was a channel in the Patagonia that they wanted to use for salmon farms. Sorry, Ashley, could you please? So we heard that an agreement had already been signed by our government, the Norwegian government, and Marine Harvest, which is MOE, to install salmon farms in this channel. This is one of our most pristine, untouched places in Argentina. So when we started hearing about this, we knew nothing about salmon farming, but we thought, if it's intensive and in the ocean and open, this cannot be good. So let's start understanding more about this industry. And of course, involving the local community was the most important thing, and it was the community who actually could speak about this. But we needed the international community to tell us what salmon farming was, what impacts they had, and to show us what already had been done in their own places. So we started connecting with people from Chile, Scotland, Canada, Norway, the US, and they all started sharing with us studies, videos, and a lot of different things that we could use to start understanding more about this, but also telling the people from our local community that something that was sold as a huge opportunity was actually going to destroy our ecosystem. And also we did, for instance, an economical study showing how the jobs that were going to be created actually weren't that many. Many of those jobs were going to be occupied by either Norwegian or Chilean people, and that it was going to have a lot of impact in our tourism sector, which had and created thousands more jobs than what the industry was claiming. Next slide, please. So in June 2021, the provincial legislature of Tierra del Fuego voted unanimously to ban open net salmon farming. This was the first ban of this sort in the region. Sadly, this December, that law changed, and there are places that still are protected, like the Beagle Channel, which was a channel I mentioned. But sadly now, it was approved that they can install in other parts of the provinces, so now we are fighting for them not to be installed. But this, for us, at that moment, was huge, because we saw how the international community helped us understanding more, but also informing the people from our local community. And then our local community, with that information, could actually ask the legislators not to allow open-end salmon farming and to pass a law against it. And we made it. We had the help from chefs. They were key actors in this campaign. But also, people were really involved in this, and they sent emails and letters and demonstrated, and the legislators didn't have a choice but to listen to us at that time. So next slide, please. This is a short video. Sadly, I think there's no music or sound, but I can tell a little bit. This is about the fight there and how we...
Different campaigns that were organized in order to be able to support the local communities with the people in Tierra del Fuego, the kayaking community, the gastronomy sector also really important, chefs that were united in this fight, not just from Tierra del Fuego, but from Buenos Aires also.
And something...
sorry.
No, that's something really important also is that, for you who don't know, Chileans and Argentinians don't actually really get along very well. We've been involved in several historical issues, and, well, not us, but people usually don't like each other. And this was the first time in a lot of years that people from Chile and Argentina united in one same action. In this flotilla that you could see with the kayaks, there was people from Chile and from Argentina all uniting for this cause. So we could also prove how a cause that was so significant for the people there would kick aside all the issues that we had been having for a lot of years. So I remember in Argentina, it was a really strong image to see Chileans and Argentinians fighting for this same thing.
Actually, the Beagle Channel connects Argentina and Chile, and this kayaking was through the Beagle, so it was really impactful image.
Yeah. And so what we saw there was an opportunity. We saw that the industry was not invincible. The community power with scientific credibility, with different studies, and with the international solidarity could actually have an impact and have a stand. So that's why we decided to create the GSFR. Next slide, Ashley, please. As I said before, it's not another NGO. It's an alliance from all of these NGOs that we had been fighting against this industry all around the world, but sometimes isolated, sometimes without the opportunity of running their own studies, their own science. So this is a way to connect all of these people, to connect all of this information, all of this footage, like the one you saw earlier, showing what this actually is about. Next slide, please, Ashley. So I'm gonna go really quick through this because it's not actually really, really important, but for today, I mean. But the way we work is actually supporting local action, connecting all these people, but with impact, not just for the connection, but we know what's going on all around the world, but we also know that the people who are living there know better what's going on in their own countries. So we don't plan to go anywhere and say, okay, hey, you should be doing this, or you should be doing that, or now we're going to do this in Maine. What we do is work with the people who are working there, and everything they tell us and how their culture is, or what they think important to do, then we support all of those actions. That's why here we work with DSF, with Protect Maine, and with Greenhorns. We also work, I mean, the only thing that we do on our own, besides supporting the local people, is working on amplifying the cause. So we have a PR strategy and our social media, just for the public in general to start understanding more about the issues of this industry and about the cause and the work of many people around the world against it. Next slide, please. So we started at the end of 2021. We were back then around 30 or 40 NGOs from 13 different countries. Now we are almost 140 from 23 different countries. We don't even go and search for members. They actually learn from us and learn that there's this alliance and they want to join, because, as I said before, many of these members are working in really small communities, and they need a lot of information and access. And we've been, till now, we've granted $234,000, and we gave 37 grants. Our main idea is we usually give grants only for our members, and that's the way we support them and the way we work with them, apart from giving, I don't know, we've got a huge creative team, and sometimes they also ask for advice on a campaign or something like that, but our main support is through funding. And the main idea is that we know how difficult it is sometimes for local NGOs to find grants quickly, and sometimes they need it quickly because there's a campaign approaching or a decision to be made in the government, or sometimes the industry announces an expansion and they need the money fast. So our idea is to give small grants, but fast enough for the NGOs to be able to fight. Next slide, please. This actually is going to go pretty quickly, but this is something that we thought was important to show you how the resistance looks like around the world and what we have achieved since the ban in Tierra del Fuego that I mentioned in 2021. Then in 2022, next slide, we had this federal turning point in Canada, that the federal government announced they were going to phase out the open-end salmon from the ocean. They were going to do it by 2025, and last year they extended the period to 2029. So also we are having a challenge there. Then next slide, please. We've got also in 2022 started the Off the Table campaign. It's a campaign to ask chefs to take farm salmon out of their menus. And it started in 2022, but until now, it's already been launched in the UK, in the US, in Canada, in Australia, in Iceland, and they've got more than 700 chefs that already signed to the campaign.
And sorry, just one more thing. This is also part of the awareness campaign and generating awareness, not just for people and NGOs who are fighting against salmon farms, but for consumers and people to understand what we are saying when we say, please take open-net salmon farms out of the ocean.
Then also in 2022, in the Malvinas Islands, they're right near Argentina, they heard what we had done, and we helped them plan a campaign there. There was a consultation to ask if they wanted salmon farms to be installed, and the majority said no. Now they're doing a new consultation this month, so let's hope it stays with no. But we have been learning from different members. Also, an important thing is that people from Malvinas also don't want to talk to us because we're Argentinian. But we've got different members from different parts of the world, especially Great Britain, that are working with them. And we have seen a lot of prosecution from the industry to the people that had voted against them in 2022 to persuade them to start voting in favor of them this time. So they've got some legal help from our members in Great Britain, and let's hope that they can still back this ban. Then in 2023, we have been working together with Neighbours of Fish Farming. This is an NGO from Tasmania, Australia. They have been working for a long time now there, and since I think 3 years back, or 4 years back, we have been supporting them with grants, but also to prepare the campaigns. And there was a huge public shift in 2023, where 72% of the people voted on a referendum against open-net salmon farming in their places as well. So this hasn't had yet an actual impact on the regulation, but at least it shows that people who had no idea about this now are against it and willing to do something about it. In 2024, we also had the same, not as high as 72%, but 65% of the people in Iceland voted against open-net salmon farming on a survey. And they're also campaigning really hard because they are going to change the aquaculture bill. So there are a lot of people demonstrating and asking the government to put more regulations to the industry, specifically regarding monitoring, because now the industry usually reports. They are the ones that monitor themselves and report to the government because the government does not have the capacity to go and monitor the farms. And then there's you in Maine. From 2024, 2025, we have been working a lot with Protect Maine Fishing Heritage Foundation to pass ordinances or moratoriums to regulate, or how do you say, to regulate intensive and large-scale aquaculture in general, not only salmon, but salmon is included, and that's why we also support it. And then in 2025, the Washington state actually locks in the ban that they had already been planning since 2018. Next slide, Ashley, please. Here.
Sorry, just one thing about the milestones before. All these are achievements that were done by the people who are living near the farms and who are fighting against that. It's not that just someone came in and said, you shouldn't do this. just people who started asking questions, NGOs that started to question not just the industry, the chefs, who's eating what are you doing? So I think that's why we usually show these milestones, because it's just the people who are fighting and having these results. It's not us as the GSFR, it's people on the ground.
Yeah, actually, our main involvement in this is only, as we said before, supporting these people in any way they need. It can be through granting, but sometimes, for instance, in Washington State, we didn't give any grants, but we talked a lot with Hillary France. We helped her with gathering, for instance, signatures from people from all around the world to prove that this was not a sustainable practice. And there are many ways in which we can help, but we are never the main characters of these successes. ¿Quieres contar esto vos?
Well, and this is why we are here now, right? As it has been said before, this in the U.S., Maine is the last stand where open-net salmon farms are allowed. It started in 2017 with the Cypress Island massive escape, then the Washington state ban. On 2022, we have, sorry, I can't read it, but it's the executive order that was passed, and in 2026, today we are having, this year we're having the renewal of different licenses here in Maine. So that's why we are here, to support and to help and to basically support all the communities who are fighting against this and raising awareness and try to see how we can help in order to ask questions, provide research, information, and how to be able to ban or at least make this process much more difficult.
Yeah, and I think that's something important. It's great that Hillary is going to talk on the second about this, because I remember once we were talking about, okay, how did Washington State get to this? How did they achieve this? And there were several people saying because a disaster happened, and after disasters, people are willing to take measures. But then we thought, okay, but we don't want disasters everywhere around the world, so that we need measures. So we thought, okay, we need to make these examples really available for everyone. We need to talk about this. We need to show what's been happening, so that we don't need such a disaster in Maine to take action against them. But the evidence is there. We can see it in different parts of the world. So if we can stop it before it makes a disaster, then that's when we feel we won. Next slide, please. This is a quote from Douglas France and Catherine Collins. For those who don't know them, they are the authors of Salmon Wars. They live in Nova Scotia. And it says, resistance movements are generated by people who refuse to accept the world as they find it and who are willing to take personal risk to make it better. And that's our motive and our main. A lot of times we're asked the same question, which is, why are you having this alliance if you don't have salmon farms in Argentina? And the reason is this mainly. And because we know it could be done better, we know we need to find better solutions in our whole food system, probably if we want to have jobs, food, but at the same time to be sustainable for the future. Because if we can have jobs and food for now, but nothing in 30 years, then we have done all wrong. So this is what motivates us, and the main reason why we actually support all of these people all around the world. Thank you.
Great, thank you both, ladies. I'm sure there's some questions here. Anyone in the audience?
Did you fly all the way from Buenos Aires yesterday?
Yes. 24-hour trip, because both flights were delayed.
Let's start in the back. And we'll try to repeat the question too for those on Zoom.
Is there the same risk
as the open pen farming as the on-land salmon farming, which has also been proposed in the state of Maine?
The question was, if there's the same risk associated with open net pen salmon farming as there are for the land-based operations.
It depends a lot on what type of on-land salmon farm. There are different ways of doing it. Usually, you can like diminish some of the risks. For instance, you wouldn't have escapes in a land-based, but sometimes they still throw untreated waste into the ocean. Then we still have the feed issue going on, which is that you need a lot of protein to feed those salmon. There have been some trials to be able to feed the fish with more sustainable feed, with black soldier fly, but it's not all land-based that use that method, and it's still being a trial. So we could say that they have less impacts in some ways, but it depends a lot on what type of farm. Also, depending on how it's done, there's an energy challenge on those lands because you need the recirculating water, which you don't have that issue in open net salmon farms. But when it comes to the harm of the environment, it diminishes some of the risks.
Thank you.
It was nice. Shaba, what would be your question without Shaba?
Yeah, I get a little carried away, but when they were proposing the salmon farm in Frenchman's Bay here in Maine, I brought it to the attention of the head selectman in Gouldsboro when I heard about a study that was done in Canada where they found out between 6 and 10 kilometers circle around where the net pens were, the lobster fishing was severely diminished. And I brought it to his attention, and he went from being pro jobs, he thought this was going to bring jobs. I said, yeah, it might bring those jobs, but what's it going to do to your local lobster fishermen? Because, you know, that's 3.5 to 6 miles circle. That's a lot of area where they didn't catch many lobsters.
Yeah.
And they documented that up in Canada, and that prevented some salmon open net pen farms from going in to Nova Scotia.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Antonio?
I'm becoming a regular, so I'm sorry. The industry right now is like arguing that there is a neo-colonialism on investor or foundations doing campaigns against finfish farming, specific salmon. What would you say against these arguments that they are raising out when many of the industries are located in Norway or in Canada? But they are using that argument.
Yes, that's also one of the questions we usually ask. Where's the industry from? Is this, I don't know, a company from Norway coming into the U.S.? Is the same company from Norway going into the U.S. or buying different smaller companies in Australia? So why are we talking about neocolonialism just one side? We are investing in protecting the environment. That's what we are doing.
And another thing that we usually say, because we're seeing that has usually been an argument, but we have seen that in the last month, mainly we've seen a lot of news with that argument in every single part of the world. So something that we usually try to be transparent about is that, yeah, sometimes the funding comes from other places, but sometimes it doesn't. And it even, it's usually the communities that have a voice for this, and where they are taking the funding from usually does not compromise them in any type of decision that they need to take. They don't need to have an agenda that the donors agree with. So it's usually support to the local communities that are the ones raising their voices.
Right over here, last question.
So you showed some pictures from your campaigns. What do you find are the sort of essential ingredients for a campaign that results in a ban?
The question was, what are the essential ingredients included in a campaign that results in a ban?
Yeah, I don't think there's a recipe that can be useful everywhere. It depends a lot on where we are. But what we usually see that helps a lot is getting involved with all the local opportunities. Or, for instance, if you're going to talk about raising awareness about the consumption of salmon, then it's important that we see which local sustainable alternatives we have in those places and start to promote that. We don't usually say, okay, stop eating salmon, start eating this other fish, because that other fish may have other impacts in different parts of the world. So the main idea is, okay, eat locally, responsibly sourced food. At the same time, the same thing applies to jobs. For instance, what Java was saying earlier, that we see that happens in a lot of places, fishing grounds being devastated, or, for instance, tourism sectors that cannot be used anymore as touristic places because of the salmon farms being there and destroying a lot of other jobs from other sectors. So I think the key is to find in all the different places what are the key issues, what are the key alternatives and the key opportunities that we can find. Also, for instance, there are some places where seaweed, oysters, or mussel farming are being done in a really small-scale, sustainable way. So that's a way of promoting an industry or a food production system that it's more sustainable, but we know it's not the case in every single place. So it's having the flexibility of understanding the whole place.
And sorry, one more thing is that what we usually see is that not just one NGO group or person who can turn the tide in a place. We've seen campaigns and our partnerships in different regions where perhaps one of the NGOs specializes in advocacy efforts, another one is better communicating things, other people can mobilize lots of other people. So working together is that at the end of the day helps to ban, to raise the question, or even try to reach to the government. So that's what we are seeing. We have really good examples. I just can mention, here you have lots of really good organizations who are working well, and I think the key is just to sit in one table, talk about what are your best efforts, where can you put your best efforts, and try to see how each one of them can complement. As you were talking before, conservation efforts are not just done by one person, it's just a group of different people who are doing this with their own expertise. So I think that's the really value in a campaign, knowing your local people, but also knowing who you are working with and try to produce the best campaign in the different angles.
Great. Actually, can I just make a comment?
Yes, last one, Karen.
So yeah, what GSFR has done, and I think your formula is commendable, but small grants to large people. And in Maine now we have 3 of these grants, and we are talking to each other more than we were before we got these. And the other big resource, you say, oh, we don't do much, we just give you the seed. But what that gave us is the collection and the community that you have your monthly newsletter, you have your monthly, reach outs to us, like look what's happening in Tasmania, so it's a full awareness campaign, and it is very community sensitive and community specific. So, the formula is great. I also want to reassure people that the members of GSFR do not pay a fee. Nobody pays a fee. We are interviewed. I was like, what do I do? And she said, oh, no, we're just going to conduct a little 15-minute interview and, see if you fit the formula of what, So it's not a fee. But it's, and so that's not what's paying for this. And so it's just a fabulous, fabulous formula, and I thank you guys for your work in getting us all together.
Yeah, we're so appreciative of everything that you guys do. We're so excited to see you in person instead of on a Zoom screen. But we'll see you guys later tonight at the concert.
Just want to add
Yeah.
one little thing, but I was coughing so much I couldn't. That to reinforce what Karen was saying, but also what I was mentioned before, is that when we showed the milestones, we had Iceland there and Australia as milestones for campaigns. That 72% of the people in Tasmania and 65% of the people in Iceland now are against salmon farming, and that was because all of those organizations work together. In Tasmania, they sat on a table and they said, okay, this is my expertise, this is my expertise, this is mine, what can we do together? And they work together. And what they do is, okay, you focus on Mogian scale because you've been studying that species for so long now, but we are going to focus on the reach out to chefs, and we are going to focus on the PR, advocacy, and social media. They even had the former president of Neighbours of Fish Farming is now MP in Tasmania, so he's directly involved in politics right now. So I think that's one of the greatest formulas, to sit on the same table and work alongside the other members of the community who may have other types of expertise and connections.
And it's also really important because these usually are long-term fights. It's not just for one day to the other. So sometimes the community support, knowing that other people are doing a great work also and you can have their backs, it's really important. We've seen, and we had members who said, I have been fighting this 30 years and I'm really tired. But someone else just came into the fight and they're igniting the fight again. So I think that's the power of this community alliance. It's just knowing other people are doing the same, or that you can reach out and see, I have no expertise in certain area. Who can I talk to? Who can I help? Or what can I do? What can I see? What has been working? I think that's the really power of the GSFR actually. Thank you.